So that was the question. And we had total overheads. And then we had this table giving us quite a bit of information. The information we have used so far from this table is machine hours, 11,000, the total machine hours, which is the basis of absorbing the overheads into different products. So we use the total overheads given here and then the total machine hours to calculate our OAR, 15.36. Then we use this OAR to add the cost to our two products A and B, and we calculate our total production cost. This method is simple once you know it, once you understand this basis concept, but calculation wise is simple, but it is based on an assumption, on a guess, and the cost there is not correct. It will be a random shot that we will get a correct cost using absorption costing, but absorption costing rarely give us accurate cost. So the cost drivers are the triggers. Drivers are triggers, are reasons, are causes which increases the cost in different sectors. So for example, the more this university teaches, the more hours it teaches, the more cost would be for teaching. Teachers' cost would increase. The more building space is used, more lighting will be used, then more heating will be used, more cleaning will be needed. More students we have, then we will need more catering staff, we need more cleaning staff, and so on. So these are the different drivers in different areas of the business. And the list we have, and then what we do, we add up all of the costs which different drivers are causing, and we call them a pool. So we're pooling all costs separately. That's one of the major differences between absorption costing and activity-based costing. In absorption costing, we dump all of the overhead in one place. 168,970, that's one place. Activity-based costing doesn't do that. It collates, gathers different types of costs in different pools. And an organization like this university would have thousands of different pools. And all big organizations, if you look at HP, for example, right next to us, or Boeing or Airbus, or all these Rolls-Royce, they all have this kind of system where they pool different types of costs in different pools. So what they do, they see which product is causing those drivers, and then those drivers are allocated to those costs, and the cost can be allocated accurately. Okay? So this is the most precise method we know of costing, which does around 95% cost as accurately as possible. There's still a bit of random allocation, but that's too tiny. Absorption costing, however, can be allocating like 60% or 70% of the cost on the basis of a random guess, which could be machine hours or labor hours or whatever. So once we know what our cost drivers are and what our cost pools are, so these are the pools, these are the drivers, and these are the total cost in those pools. Then the first thing we need to do is to calculate total number of drivers for each pool. And many questions don't give you this information, but this question actually gives you all of the total drivers as well. So sometimes you'll see that the question does not give you the total column, and it will give you just product A and product B drivers, and then step 1 to solve ABC would be to calculate total number of drivers. But this is done in this case. Once we know this information, then we need to calculate. So step number 2 would be, in this case you're skipping step 1. Step number 2 would be to calculate cost per driver. How much does it cost each time a driver is triggered? Okay, so for example, for machining department, we have machine hours, our driver. So how much does it cost us to run our machines for 1 hour? That's our cost per driver. So if you go to our Excel, ABC 12.13, let's call that. And okay, overheads allocation as per ABC. That's what we're doing. Step 1 is, and I'm giving you step 1 because most of the time you will have to do this. And in this case, given in question, total number of drivers, total machine hours are given, total labor hours are given, total number of orders given. So these are all of our drivers. Step number 2 would be cost per driver. For this, we need activity pools, total cost per pool, total drivers per pool. Now these are not taxi drivers or van drivers, okay? These are those triggers or reasons for which the cost would increase. So this lecture is a driver for the increase of cost in teaching or lecturing costs. Total drivers per pool, and then we can have cost per pool. So I'm gonna type all of the drivers given in the book, and these are here: machining, assembly, packing, material ordering, material issue, and machine setup. Machine assembly, packing, material ordering. So in machining department, most of the work is being done by machines, and then assembly is where labor is needed, packing where is the dispatching the product, so you pack them, you need people or maybe machine. Material ordering is usually the storeroom or requisition department, purchasing or procurement department, who need people, and they will call the suppliers and they will order. Machine setup cost. Machine setup is a type of cost that when let's take an example of Coke. Yeah, one factory of Coke, it produces different types of products: 2 liter bottle, 1.5 1 liter, 500 ml, a can 330 ml, maybe a smaller 200 ml can. So these are the different products, and then so many different flavors. So every time they produce Coke Classic, maybe let's produce 1 million units of Coke Classic. Then let's say they want to produce 200 ml can cherry Coke can. What they need to do, they need to flush the system so that no residue are left of other flavor, and they will change the filters. They will change the size of the machines, or they will change the software. Engineers would come, they will do some fittings. These activities between batches, so you produce one batch and then next batch is being produced, there are activities in the middle, and that is called a setup cost. Now Coke Classic, which is being produced in a batch of 1 million units, and another Coke which is being produced by only 100,000 units, are going to have the same cost. As a result, Coke Classic can produce cheaply than a flavor which is not being produced as much. Then we have quality inspections. The cost is 63030, 43020, 31,000, 990, 12,000, and machine assembly, packing, material ordering, material issues. I skipped material issues. So these are my cost. Total drivers I have 9,000. 1, 33, and 34. Okay, and now on Excel, obviously it's easy peasy. All you have to do is put the formula and your cost per drivers are there. It's 2 decimal places. Because the figures are so small, let's take it to 3 decimal places. There's something wrong here. What happened then? Oh, I did divide rather than. But that's what I was supposed to do. Okay, I did the other way around. So it wasn't that easy, was it? Okay, much better now. So we have calculated our cost per driver. Sorry, that's a mistake. Cost per driver. So that's first part of the question done. Any question here? Okay. Step 3. Is allocation of overheads to products. So all of these overheads are cost pools, need to be allocated to product A and B. This would be done by multiplying cost per driver with how many drivers A cost in machining department so the cost per driver, we have it here, times if you go to the question, and we need to go to the question for this. The question tells us that product A caused 6,000 hours, 6,000 drivers. So we need to multiply cost per driver with 6,000. And B cost, going back to the question, 5,000 machine hours. That's the tricky part. And if you get it, then you won't go wrong in this question. 5,000. So we have allocated our machining total cost to A and B. We can check, there's a check here, which we can carry out to see if we have done it right or wrong. And that would be by adding these two costs to see if they tally with the total cost. Assembly, I'm taking my cost per driver, multiplying it with how many hours were needed in assembly, 3,000 for A. And I get my assembly cost. Then for packing, I have my cost per packing or cost per dispatch times how many times we had to do packing for product A. $2,000. Then for material ordering, £90 per order. It cost us £90 per order. And how many times we ordered for A? 86. Then £80 per material issue. So stores, every time they issue material to the factory for product A, it costs them £80. And how many times they had to do this for A? 103. Then we have machine setups. We have cost per setup, £180. How many times we had to do a setup for A? 25 times. And the last bit is, each time we produce a batch, it needs to go through quality inspection. They take few samples, engineers or scientists, whoever the people are, they take the samples, they take them to the laboratory, check the sample. For example, if there's a food item, then they will check for anything which could harm human health. For example, salmonella. You have that. If something made with egg, then they could check for that. Things like that. These big farms which supply chicken eggs, they send those eggs for this kind of testing. So that's an example of quality inspection. They actually check those eggs. So I have £114 cost per inspection, and we had to check A 10 times. So what we have done, we have allocated all of the pool's cost to two different products. We can find out how much each product costs in total by adding these costs. So sum of all of these costs is the total overheads. Overheads per product and overhead per unit. Per product means type of product. A fridge and a freezer, for example, or a laptop or a tablet. But how much each laptop or tablet costs, that's overhead per unit. And units are given in the question. If you look at the first thing we have on the table is 6,000 of A and 5,000 of B. So doing the division, total overheads for A divided by total number of units for A, and same thing for B. Never leave so many decimal places. The purpose of ABC is something which is given in this bluish line. Okay? That's what ABC does. If you compare with absorption costing, that's what absorption costing is. It's calculated overheads per product 15.36, same, and ABC has done slightly differently. What we need to do, we need to do a cost card just like this. So what we do is, let's do copy and paste. with ABC. Prime costs remain the same. Overheads are different now. And we have total production costs using ABC.